Okay. God, I love you. I want to come close. You know, I would have all my students do that. Okay? You have to be able to scream. Okay?
I'm so tired though. I was like, who's that?
They call tefillah, the kabbalists call tefillah, right? Aliyat Maim Nukvin. The elevating of the feminine waters. Okay? What a bizarre statement or noun to call it. Okay?
When is city hot pump?
Yeah. Aliyat Maim Nukvin. Actually, all our good deeds, when we do them with the right intention, it is elevating the feminine waters. Okay? Whatever it is, we'll get into it in later classes. Okay? The idea here is, okay, we discussed a few things last time, okay, about the Shema. We discussed a lot of things about prayer, who made the Siddur, but first we have to have the introduction of that, really who fixed the prayer. Who fixed prayer 3 times a day, right? We pray 3 times a day. It wasn't fixed by the Anshe Knesset HaGadola. The men of the Great Assembly only fixed the Siddur. But before that, we know Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov fixed the prayer service, respectively. Avraham fixed the morning, Yitzchak fixed the afternoon, and Yaakov fixed the evening prayers. Okay? And all of the prayers that we do is based really upon that. Really, they set a standard, a motion, an energy, a vortex, so to speak. They dug a well, okay? And they opened a well. They made a path for us to go ahead and zero in and align ourselves with that path in order to make a connection. Now, the word for tefillah. I heard many words for the word tefillah. Okay? Does anybody want to chime in anything? The word for tefillah, which is prayer. The definition of the word? Okay, which is?
Like
No, but that's close. Thinking. If you look in the dictionary. Palel means to think. It's meditation. Okay? It's not lip service. Okay? The biggest huge issue with the people with many people is doing things by rote. Okay? You can't. There's a sefer by Rabbi Yitzchak Shiur who speaks about when things become by rote, it is the worst thing for the Jewish people. Why? We lose all our wisdom because of it. We lose all of our wisdom when we start to do things anshe milumada, to do things by rote. It has to be something special. It has to be. Now, the other word of the definition of prayer, right, actually was in a few parshas ago, right? I have it written here. Here in the first part of this thing, the definition of the word for prayer, tefillah, actually means connection. Why? Because the word petel, or pesel, twine, as in the verse, Naftuli Elokim Niflati, which when Naphtali was born, right, it had to do with twine, a connection. Like I've made a connection with rope. Okay? So the whole idea of prayer and tefillah is us pouring out our hearts to God. Okay? And it is the connection. It is so important that we really have no idea how important it is. The interesting thing comes when we say the Shema. Because we talked about last week when we say the Shema, classically when we say come to the Shema, it's called Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, which means acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. Acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. So when you're doing something called accepting, Kabbalat, Kabbal, you are not pouring out your heart necessarily. Right? You are in a mode of receiving. All of a sudden, all these prayers that you're going through the whole evening, you're, I bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you, blah, blah, nah, 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 and then all of a sudden, the tide has changed. The tide turns. Okay, it's a shift. Okay, and all of a sudden now you're accepting something upon yourself. Okay, and then the question is, what does it mean to accept the yoke of the kingdom of heaven? We spoke last time about The yoke. What is yoke? Does anybody remember when we spoke about yoke last time? What is yoke?
It's a yoke.
The yoke is on you. No.
Is that like responsibility?
Yeah, kind of like that. When you have an ox, and the ox is great, and it's sitting, but if it's sitting in the barn or it's eating the grass, it ain't going to do much. You have to put a yoke on it, a harness on it, in order for it to pull the plow. You have to have this connecting factor to connect it to a something in order for it to express its potential. Okay? The Shema, oddly enough, really, as in the bottom line, and I'm telling you, this is a real rabbit hole, folks, because the more I look at it, the more I study it, the deeper it goes, and I was planning on a 3 or 4 part series, and I have to cut it off at some time, but it can go on. Okay? But now I forgot what I was talking about. Remind me. What? Ol Malchut. Thank you. Ol Malchut Shema. Ol is yoke. Acceptance. Kibel. Right? God made a world in order to bestow pleasure. We have to be the recipients of that pleasure. Receiving. A yoke. Kingdom of heaven. Kingdom of heaven is an interesting thing. What does it mean to accept God as your king? It's a real tough one, because we don't have a concept of king these days, right? What is our concept of king, right? The only idea which I only got it...
Sovereign? Sovereign?
That doesn't jive with me growing up, man. You pull any of that stuff in California, we're like, what is that? Hand me this wax for my surfboard, please.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, it wasn't, and I didn't surf. Okay, just get me out of that sovereign stuff. Okay, king. No. So the idea really is this, and there's a true story. You know, while my son was in the hospital in Colombia, and we were going through everything we were going through, we got a call from a friend of ours in San Antonio. It was a woman. Apparently, the woman had a very serious miscarriage. She lost so much blood. They had to infuse her with so much blood, she basically died. She was in a coma for about 9 days. She woke up from the coma, Baruch Hashem, she's okay. But she spoke to us and told us when she was in the state, she was in the out-of-body experience. She was in the other world. Her soul was there in front of God. She had kids. She had a family. But she was in such a state as she's so connected. She saw God. She was so connected to God. She basically was saying, whatever you want from me. You want me to go back? Fine. You want me to pass away? Fine. Whatever it is you want. In other words, she was so confident and so secure. The perception was such emunah that it was going to be for the best, whatever. I mean, she was to really put yourself in that state, right? She was there in that state. So whatever it is that you want is fine with me. I'll miss my kids, but whatever. In other words, kingdom is really for us to relate to is there is a higher authority. There is a oneness, and all there is God, right? And He is running the show in a perfectly orchestrated way. I am coming from a limited place, limited consciousness. He has the whole scene, the whole scoreboard, and as hard as it might be for us, to accept that whatever it is good. Okay? So that is what it means by acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, which is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. One meaning you're it. There's nothing else other than you. Okay? So like I say, yoke means expression of expressing your potential. And the bottom line is, like I say, the rabbit hole is very deep, is in this acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, you lose yourself. Because as we know, we spoke about last week a little bit, that when you say the echad, and you have to elongate the dalid, that's practice. Has everybody been practicing their dalid, their long dalid? You guys already mastered it. I know that. The Israelis, right?
It's hard to do that.
Oh, very.
It's a hard
I'm still working on it. I'm working on it for 15 years, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, it's
echad. You have to elongate the dalid because you have to accept that God is the total in total charge. There's no angels. He's it. He's it. He's all there is. All there is all there is. All there is all there is. Right? And then you have to accept upon yourself to be willing to moser your nefesh, to willing to die on the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, which means that if somebody would come to you, if nations, some Gentiles would come and say, we want you to bow down to this idol or we're going to kill you, you accept upon yourself to die. Okay? In other words, you accept that your soul is going to leave your body, or like what the Noam Elimelech says, you have to picture, this might be easier for you, a huge fire that goes all the way up to heaven. A huge fire, and you are going to break your character traits and jump into the fire. Okay? And do the mitzvah of V'nikdashti b'toch b'nei Israel. I sanctified myself among Israel. Okay? Among the Jewish people. Okay? So, to fulfill that mitzvah. As a matter of fact, bottom line, according to the Noam Elimelech, if you didn't think it, you haven't fulfilled your obligation of saying the Shema. Okay? Just to nail that. Okay? Gee, Rabbi, it's a little, hey, Rabbi Nachman says don't take it too seriously. Okay? In other words, don't, because it's very dangerous. What your mind can do could do tremendous things, the power of the mind. A person can actually put themselves in a situation of danger. You all have to be willing to. Okay, you follow? In other words, Rabbi Nachman says some people, you could go too far with that, so don't go too far. Okay? Just acceptance. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Okay? Because when you do that, you lose yourself. Okay? You lose the ani, the ego aspect of yourself. And then only then are you able to connect to your real self, who you really are. Okay? See, the Avos, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, who fixed the prayers, Shacharit, Mincha, Mariv, the morning, afternoon, and evening prayers, they were so connected to their real I, the real Anochi. That's how they were able to learn all of the Torah within them. Okay? We can't learn the Torah within them. We have to go to rabbis, we have to look at books, we have to, right, go to classes, we forget it, right? I mean, so, but the Avos, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, they were so connected that their soul was the Torah. So they were so connected to their soul was the Torah, so everything was available to them, and they were able to fulfill all of the mitzvahs. Okay? We, however, we have problems. We're not so connected. Most of who we are in terms of our personality is a collection of this and that, and this thought, and this thought, and that, and that, and that. We're thrown together of different things and different ideas that make up our personality and how we behave. It's usually taking from a smorgasbord of different things. Okay? A little chopped liver here, a little tuna salad here. Exactly, I'm not tuna salad, but whatever it is. Okay. In any case, forget the tuna salad. Don't even mention it. I mentioned it. Okay. Yeah. Okay.